When a loved one passes away, there are so many legal and financial steps that need to be taken care of and need to be aware of. And one of those is a date of death appraisal. So we're going to share with you why a date of death appraisal is an important step.
Date of death appraisals are something that is actually required during the probate process legally. So it's important that you have one completed so that the courts can verify the property value for legal purposes. One of the reasons is that they actually will use this number to determine if the sales price of the home is at the proper value or within the range that they permit.
Right, there's the 90% rule when you're dealing with a probate. Let's say the house would appraise for $1 million. In order to be able to sell it without any court intervention, you need to get 90% or $900,000 or better as a sales price, for instance. So as you can tell, the date of death appraisal is a very important step, and it impacts both the estate and the heirs.
So the date of death appraisal is an official evaluation of the real estate, and it is going to determine the fair market value of that home.
As of the date of death.
Correct.
Right. And the appraisal is done for a probate by a probate referee. In the case of a trust administration, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific appraiser, but it's really important to have that established market value as of your loved one's passing, and we'll tell you why.
So Kim just mentioned a probate referee, and we want you to understand what a probate referee is. A probate referee will appraise the property. They are court appointed, and they will determine what the value of the home is.
And if you're working, most of you are working with an attorney, they will actually manage that part. It's really important to do it as soon as possible, because our experience is that it can take a long time, sometimes several months, to get the actual written appraisal and the value from the probate referee, which frankly I find kind of frustrating because, it's just an appraisal.
Yeah. And I'm certain that for you it would be a frustrating scenario as well, because you're trying to get this property prepared for sale, and if it takes too long to accomplish this appraisal, then that can kind of set back your timeline for the sales process.
It's important that you know that some attorneys don't really worry so much about getting that appraised value before the property goes on the market. Some attorneys that we've had experience with actually wait until we have the property in escrow, and then they tell the court-appointed referee, this is the price, and they do it sort of retroactively, the appraisal.
So we've seen it done various ways, and your attorney is going to confirm with you how they think that should be accomplished.
And I think it's really important also that you be aware of this need for the appraisal and find out how your attorney wants to handle it. Also, the court-appointed appraiser is going to be appraising the value of the real property, the home of your loved one, or investment property, whatever it might be. And also, they'll be just giving some value to the personal property. Much of the time, it's as little as $1,500 for all remaining personal property. So that will also be on this appraisal.
Side note with that, you should remember not to take any personal property from the home, because you don't want to potentially affect that value of the appraisal for the personal property. So we always recommend that you speak with your attorney before you remove any items from the home.
Another thing to know is that the probate referee is paid 0.01% of whatever they determine the value is. In the case of the $1 million home, that would mean they would be paid $1,000 for the appraisal. And the other thing is too, that a lot of times they don't even drive past the house, I don't think. They definitely, 90% plus, do not go inside the house so much. So it may not be, if you need to take a few things out of the house, it may be okay to do that, because most likely they aren't going to even be aware of what's inside of the home unless it's something really collectible and expensive maybe.
On occasion, we've actually found that a probate referee will have the appraisal completed, and we begin working with our client and go into the property, and it is in disrepair inside. And we will actually have to go back and speak with the probate referee and have them reassess the value. Oftentimes they'll ask us for things like pictures of the interior to show the damage, and then they'll be able to reassess based on what value is actually appropriate for that property based on its condition.
And it really needs to be very in disrepair. I've gone into a home that looked beautiful from the outside, but there had been a flood on the inside and all of the drywall was removed. 2 feet, above the floor was gone, and plumbing issues and all that. And that would affect the property more than that 10% that I was just talking about. So that could be an issue, but in most cases, the value is reasonable enough for your real estate professional to be able to sell the house within that 90% rule.
A quick story, we actually had a client just recently who had the probate property assessed already by the appraiser, and the value that had been assessed was based on the exterior of the home.
Yeah, when we went inside, there was a smell, number one, cat smell, which makes it difficult. I have a little saying, if I can smell it, I can't sell it for normal market value. As we walked through this house, we could see that it had been, not much had been done in decades. And we went to the back bedroom, and what did we see?
The back bedroom had a huge hole in the ceiling, and all of the hardwood floors had been damaged to the point where they were warping. And it was because there was a roof leak, and the woman who had lived there had basically just shut the door to the bedroom and not told her family what had been going on. So what ended up happening is the client, when she finally went in shortly before her mother had passed, she found this damage, and it was too far gone to repair it in the moment. They actually had a lot of things and concerns with her mother, so they were focused on her mother more than the home. And we ended up going in and talking to the referee, and they were able to reassess the value. So we fixed that problem by
Managing it for our client by taking many photos and of the interior and exterior and emailing them to the probate referee, who then reassessed the value. And we got the property sold.
Yeah. And to mitigate, there was a lot of personal property that was left, and much of it had water damage. So to mitigate that problem, we had a buyout company come in and remove everything. And when they removed everything, we actually had them take the carpet as well, which helped.
It smelled like cat.
It helped with the smell quite a bit. So then we were able to get clear offers for the property that were of a higher value than if we had left it the way that it was.
Exactly. Going back to why it's important to have that date of death appraisal, even in the case of a trust, to have that appraised value, because when the heirs or the family sells the property, having that value will get a stepped up basis. Let's say your loved one purchased the property decades ago for $50,000, but now, because 50 years have gone by, it's worth $1 million, again, to keep things simple. You get a stepped up basis from that appraisal. So that would help to avoid a capital gain situation. In the case that you wouldn't have the date of death appraisal, theoretically, the appraised value would be what your loved one purchased the property for, and that $950,000 difference could have a huge tax implication.
Regarding heirs to the estate, it's important for the appraisal to be completed relatively soon after the date of death so that the heirs are aware of what the value of the home is. Oftentimes, we've seen that beneficiaries have assumptions about what they believe a property is worth, and it doesn't always match up with the actual fair market value of the home. So in our experience, having that number is more valuable because then the executor, administrator, or trustee is able to communicate with the other heirs how much they believe the property will be worth and what they'll probably be selling it for. It kind of prevents that ick feeling for the beneficiaries of not knowing whether or not they're going to get money and not knowing what the value of that money will be.
Yeah, so you want to avoid disputes in any way you possibly can. And this is just one other way that you have a fair market appraisal from a licensed appraiser that determines the value based on the facts, the comparable properties at the time of the death.
Similar to a traditional real estate sale and an appraisal for that, it is a valuation of the property. The differences might be that it takes a bit longer, and it is something that doesn't always go as in depth as a traditional appraisal.
Yeah, the fact that much of the time the probate referee, in the case of a probate, doesn't even step inside of the house, that's different than a traditional appraisal. In the case of a trust, they will go inside the house in most cases. But what you're really wanting is just to get that established value. And however they manage to do it gives you that established value.
And remember that that established value, you know, we can make plans to navigate any particular scenario that might occur regarding that value. Like we said earlier, sometimes that number comes in too high based on the interior, or sometimes that number, you know, we have to hit that 90% rule, and that can kind of affect the process. So, you know, we adjust based on what we see for that value.
Yeah, and I think what we also do is, and this would be important if you're not in the San Diego area and you're working with a real estate professional, is you want to make sure that they coordinate with your attorney to meet that 90% rule, to make sure that they are aware of what the appraised value is and if there's anything that needs to be done about it. So basically, a probate appraisal is a little bit different than a traditional appraisal. When we're helping with the home, we will make sure that the appraiser can have access if they want to. But like we said, most of the time they don't even go inside the property.
And on occasion, they'll ask us for photos, or you know, we will provide comparable property information for other properties in the area and what they've sold for, because they do occasionally speak with us about that.
Yeah, sometimes they call and just say, "Hey, what is the value of the property?" You know, we'll tell them so that they can get in there and meet that obligation of providing the appraisal. But most of the time, they do it before we even become part of helping with the home.
So in conclusion, a date of death appraisal is important, and it follows various guidelines for legal matters,
Financial matters, getting it for the court situation, you know, probate court, you have to have one.
Yeah. And for tax purposes, you're going to want to know what that number is, because it's going to help prevent any giant tax bills that might come in.
Plus, it'll make all the beneficiaries feel comfortable, which is very important. The beneficiaries comfortable that they are aware what the actual market value is of the home. And I have to say, a lot of beneficiaries are shocked at what our values are here in San Diego County. You know, the people that live in other parts of the country.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Please like, subscribe, hit that bell button, and
Don't forget to comment.
if you have questions, please put them in the comment section. We'll do our best to answer.
Have a great day.